And welcome to your LSU Football Fix presented by Tramonte's Meat and Seafood on TigerBait.com. Quite excited to bring on a good buddy, Will Blackwell. He, of course, has been on the show before, and he's just one of the former LSU players who's always a lot of fun to talk to. He's very involved with the program and very knowledgeable. He's also a member of the Millennial Beard Club, as Mike Scarborough likes to make fun of. He's also a good friend of Tramonte's Meat and Seafood. He knows how to eat good, as most of us offensive linemen do know much about. So I'm going to be bringing him on in just a bit. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of the trending names in this LSU coaching search. I'm going to be breaking down both how much smoke there is to the rumor, because I've heard some aggressive rumors this week. And we'll be talking about what we think of them. So without further ado, here is 2011 All-American offensive lineman for the LSU Tigers, Will Blackwell. Will, what's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on? I appreciate you having me. Sorry, I know we had a little talk backstage. The circumstances, there's probably 6 or 8 little kids running around outside. So if you hear a scream, don't be alarmed. It's just a child getting upset about something. They'll be okay. There's plenty of women and moms in there that will take care of them.
Exactly, man. Look, we all have kids in our lives, and sometimes they like to make appearance. I sometimes have dogs come on
It's
the show and make a little cameo
it's the new
appearance.
Zoom virtual world. We got to get used to it. So,
Yeah. Mhm.
sorry in advance.
No, I personally love the whole just Zoom culture that's taken over of like, yeah, it's okay if a baby's screaming in the background. Who cares? Life happens. It's been, I think our society has progressed to where it needs to with that. So with that
I
being
agree. Go
said,
ahead.
what's your thoughts on this LSU coaching search? It's been kind of a wild ride since we talked last.
I'm already tired of it. I'm already tired of it. Well, it just the thing about it is you build your program to a point to where you don't want to ever have to have this situation happen in season, right? Like we're getting ready to play Alabama, and instead of talking about that, we're talking about who our next coach is going to be, and that enough in itself is like enough to make me upset, right? We should never be at this point, and it's very frustrating for me, but with all that aside, yeah, of course, we've heard plenty of rumors from Jimbo Fisher to Mel Tucker to Joe Brady to, I mean, basically, if you're doing a decent job right now, your name's on the list. So there's a lot of people out there. I tell people every day, I don't know how Woodward and these guys are going to go about narrowing down this list because there are plenty of good candidates, but at the end of the day, this athletic administration has to get this call right, or it could be a huge speed bump for the wall for this program.
Yeah, I mean, and like you said, it's kind of wild. Basically, if you're doing kind of a good job right now, your name is on the list. And what's been really funny to me is watching everybody kind of overreact to one game or one decision. Or we can't hire Lane
Yes,
Kiffin. He went for it on fourth down and he shouldn't have. Did you see his analytics guy rolling his eyes behind him? How dare they? you know?
can't believe he would go for it in that game, right? And that's the thing, right? Instead of you know kind of analyzing our team and talking about the things we should be doing to maybe even pull off an upset, we're sitting here watching Michigan State. I mean, we're pulling
Yeah, right.
for whoever, and it's kind of a I don't know the right word for it, but it's a rough patch in our history. So we got to get through this, take our time, and God just try to at least show up on Saturday.
Show some pride, right? So is LSU being disrespected as a 28-point underdog? CBS didn't even pick up the game. Fans didn't buy their full allotment of tickets and they had to return tickets to Alabama. I
Yep.
mean, is LSU being disrespected?
No, LSU's disrespected themselves with the way they performed this year. I mean, it's kind of
That's
funny because
fun.
when I look back, in 2011, we played every game at 2:30, and for the first couple of games, we're like, dude, this is not. Why do we have to play at 2:30? This isn't fair. We should be playing Tiger Stadium at night.
Right.
And then, we kind of realized, hey, we're the hot ticket. Everybody's watching. This is prime time. This is why you play at 2:30, because we were good.
Right.
And this is why, nobody's picking up the game. You're playing at 11 o'clock. Nobody wants to come because you're not good. And it's just the way it is, right? People expect LSU
Mhm.
to perform better. Even on a down season, in the last 20 years, even on down seasons, we haven't been this big of an underdog.
Mhm.
So it's disappointing. I know there are a lot of injuries and there's a lot of turmoil within the program, but no, I don't think LSU is being disrespected. I think some of these players and these coaches aren't doing a good enough job to earn respect. So if you think you are being disrespected, then go out there and play a good game.
Go earn
That's
some respect.
really
You said something just there. I had to look away and cringe. Anybody who's ever played a sport at any level would have cringed. And not only because it just stings to hear, but watching this team, it's true. That is, they're not being disrespected. This team has disrespected themselves. And you
yeah
say that, you're a former part of this team. Not only that, a championship member of that team, an All-American. So it's kind of like you feel that with this team. It's like, yes, they have done this to themselves. They're not in a position they want to be in, and it hurts. And quite
yeah
frankly, it's almost numb at this point, right? Coming into the Bama game, like there's just no expectation of a win.
yeah. Like I said, when you're at a point where you are more focused on or getting more hits and more views on a top five candidate list for your coaching
Yeah,
job than you are
yeah,
focused on, like, do we have a shot to even get second in the West? I mean, what bowl are we going to go to?
right.
Are we going to a bowl?
They're gonna
No,
have to
probably
steal a
not.
win. They're gonna have to
Uh,
steal a win. They stole one
yeah,
with Florida, but
yeah. And, I mean, so anyway, that has to be your focus. The only focus you can have right now as this team is A, ruin Alabama season, and B, maybe make a bowl game.
yeah,
Other than that, no, nobody should be talking about you.
yeah,
You shouldn't be getting tweeted about. You shouldn't be on ESPN. You shouldn't be none of that. Nobody cares about LSU right now. You're not very good.
right.
So
Other
it
than
is what
talking
it
about how
is.
good is the job, it's all about the job. It's not even about the team at this point. That's kind of a sad part to be in, but
Well, and the thing about it is, I, I, it's hard to say this because we are talking about, at the end of the day, we're talking about kids and they're in a fragile situation. It is very tough to even, deal with the process of being a student athlete, and much less with all this going on, right? It is tough.
Mhm.
But uh, with that being said, it's just so frustrating because having been there and knowing how hard it is, and even on our down years, like we never ever would have been counted out this way.
Mhm.
And so
Right.
just to see the response to that is, well, of course they had the bye week, so we're not exactly sure how it's going to go. But the
Mhm.
response from the leadership of the program has been not encouraging, to say the
Yeah.
least. So
Yeah, and we're both
I'm
about
not looking forward to this
30-ish.
weekend.
We're both about 30-ish, and for LSU, this is completely uncharted territory for us. Watching the
Yeah,
program, not just being like the indifference, the almost like, could you imagine how awkward it would be if they beat Alabama? It's almost like, you know what I mean? Like Coach O pulls
where do
that
you go from
win,
there? That's
right?
about
What do
that's
you do?
about what would happen.
What? And you're still going to send them packing, having beat 2 out of 3. It's like, it's almost like for the order of things, you want LSU to just not win this game, even though you're wanting LSU to win every game. It just is kind of a messy scenario. If LSU wins the
Yeah,
game, it's a real awkward pinch to be in. And I think that's why most people would rather just talk about coaches, man, because that's that makes me feel better. I don't want to talk about my feelings on
no,
this
I
LSU
agree, but
game.
at this point, it is kind of weird, right? It's kind of like we've already kind of moved on to the next season. So if
Mhm.
you're on the team and you're in that program, all you can do is focus on the guys that are there, right? Like you
Yeah.
you have to want to play for your buddy next to you or your roommate on the other side of the ball. And if you don't, then maybe you should enter the transfer portal or do whatever you do. But I guess my point in my last statement was that I think it's gotten so bad that the new coach that comes in, obviously, there's guys that you're not ever going to cut off of a roster, right?
Hmm. Right.
Ricks and Max Johnson, a couple of those guys. But I think that everybody's spot should be looked at, right? Just because you're on scholarship, just because you've been to recruit at LSU, like if you put on the tape from this year, aside from a few seniors and Damone Clark, a couple of other guys, I don't want to spend the time naming them, but
Right.
everybody's scholarship should be looked at and reevaluated. This program is 100% in the dumps, and I think that every single aspect of it has to be reevaluated.
I think you might be detached from the program enough at this point, at least the people in the program, right, to maybe answer this with a straight answer. I'm telling you, probably the second most popular question I've gotten this season since Ogeron's separation was announced has been, do you clean house? Like, who is left in the football building staff-wise when you hire a new coach? What's your opinion on that?
Well, there's always going to be a few athletic administration people, right? You got, because Jack Marucci. I was like Jack Marucci and the athletic training staff. I mean, unless
How
you're,
deep do you go, right?
yeah, but those people don't really. I mean, how do you say this? They're a tremendous help to a program, but they're not necessarily like a detriment to a program. They can be at a certain point, but we know that group of people that we have are strong, right? Like our athletic trainers, all that. That's good. Now, I've always believed that Coach Moffitt's done a good job, but then again, that I'm not sure how that relationship works. Is his relationship with the athletic department, or is it with the head coach? I personally think it's probably with the athletic department, so he could potentially be safe. Other than that, yeah, I mean, coaching wise, I don't know why you would say one. I don't.
Corey Raymond.
I don't think.
I mean, if you're going to look
Corey
at
Raymond is. I think Corey
DB
Raymond
coach,
is a. I think Corey Raymond is a good name. He does well in recruiting. I never personally played cornerback, believe it or not. I could have probably locked some dudes
I mean,
down.
you had the measurables.
I had the footwork.
Right.
But I was just a little big. So I don't know how Coach Raymond is technically. He could be a great coach.
Right.
Then again, that's something that whoever's coming in, I don't know what are their demands, right? Do they come in and say, hey, say we get Jimbo on the hook. Jimbo wants to come to LSU. Jimbo says, I ain't coming to LSU unless I can pick every single person in the building. All right, you can pick every single person in the building. It's going to be part of the negotiations. Now, obviously, you probably want to retain as many administrative people as you can. Guys like, I guess, Jeff Grigas, like facilities manager, equipment managers, all those people would probably stay in place and probably should, because they are, the link to that old culture, and they do know, those people know how to win. So they're not the problem.
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, I don't know, man. It just depends on the details of a contract, really.
Mm-hmm. It does. And one of the things that I've mentioned is you're probably looking at someone who's established as a head coach already. And he's probably going to have a lot of his dudes in place. I think there's
or
just
have some ideas, because this is not this isn't a stepping stone. This isn't like okay, I'm gonna go to LSU and then one day I'm gonna go somewhere else. This is if I'm gonna be one of the best coaches, or if I'm gonna be whatever, this is where my career goes to take off. Like this is the ultimate. So in that sense, guys might might leap and try to get somebody from the NFL to come be a coordinator or something like that. It opens the door a little bit more when guys are kind of laying it all on the line for that job.
Yeah. I broke down a lot of my whole show last week was kind of themed about how good is this LSU job. And I don't see there's a way that it isn't a top 5. And quite frankly, it's not 5,
Yeah, no, there's no way.
Top 4 job.
I mean, ask any coach that's coaching right now. I think that everybody's on the table, and we have to just trust that Woodward will do a good job. And if he burns us, then we'll find somebody else.
Yeah, no, I want to, so there were some aggressive, like very aggressive rumors regarding
Let me hear the most aggressive one. Yeah,
man, look, I don't want to even quote the nonsense that ended up in my DMs from sources, and actually there was a couple typos in the sources. So I got one person saying, they said they forgot to put the not in there. So about Jimbo Fisher. People were telling me all sorts of things, saying it's a done deal. Texas A&M staff was in Louisiana this week. Never mind the fact that they were recruiting. I know Tommy Robinson was here this weekend recruiting and whatnot, but from what I hear, it's a little overblown. I'm not ruling Jimbo out at this point. Here's my question: I had actually forgot that you were initially recruited as a defensive lineman. Completely blew my mind, right?
Wow. Why are you
Again,
so surprised?
Well, I mean, look.
Put on the tape, man.
It's there, but look, man. You filled out that frame. I guess you were just a much thinner guy, but you looked like a true offensive lineman, like a just perfect frame for it. And usually when you just fit that position so well, it's like, oh wait, what? He was a defensive end, huh?
Yeah, I knew.
But, I mean, you just did your part. You
I
put the
definitely
meat
knew
on
how
the
to
frame.
knew how to eat, but yes, I was originally recruited as a defensive lineman.
That frame was presented to you by Tramonte's Meat and Seafood, by the way.
The
Will
ribeye
Blackwell
po' boy, the ribeye po' boy. You gotta check it out.
I had to sneak that plug in there.
I
But
just got
anyways,
full saying that.
Look, if I'm done body shaming you here, so what I'm getting at, did Jimbo Fisher? He left the year you got there, right?
Yeah, so I guess I could probably
with him?
I guess I could probably tell the story now. How long has that been? 15 years since I was recruited.
2006?
14.
That's 15 years.
So
Come on.
yeah. So okay.
That story's almost over.
2006 obviously was being recruited by LSU. They played in the Sugar Bowl. And there was a coach on staff that was leaving, who recruited me, and actually I won't name him. He recruited me and actually ended up was going to leave and said, "Hey, I know you want to come play with me, but you should go to LSU." And I kind of took that to heart, and I knew that he kind of had my best interest in mind. Not that I went to LSU because he told me to, but it definitely helped to hear that from this guy. Anyway, he helped us get some tickets, and the tickets happened to be right next to Jimbo's wife. Like I sat right next to Jimbo's wife, and his two kids sat right next to her. So I don't know. I just kind of had like this up close and personal experience with her and the kids, and I mean, not that that matters, right? Like as a football player, you probably might meet his wife 2 times, and like you're not going to be around them. It doesn't matter, but you can kind of get a judge of a little bit at least of who a guy is by at least talking to his wife. And there was nothing about that time that made me say, God, I really wish Jimbo was going to be here no matter what. And in her defense, like she didn't know who I was. I wasn't an offensive player. Could have been any random dude from South Louisiana. We, all the big guys that, we all have beards. We kind of look normal, kind of look the same. So it wasn't, a big deal. But at that point, I thought, man, I don't know so much about Jimbo. And then when I got to LSU, I heard a bunch of different things about him, and nobody ever came to me and said, God, I love Jimbo. I wish he would come back. And, I kind of figured that if he were so invaluable, that at least somebody there would have said, damn, man, I wish Jimbo was still here. Dude was good at yada, 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 yada. And, it was kind of stood out to me that nobody ever changed my mind on that. So I know that he and Wilbur have a good relationship. I'm not saying he's not a great coach, but personally, I don't think I'm pulling for Jimbo to be our guy.
That's some really good insight. I really appreciate that. That's probably a bit better than anything I could have reasonably expected you to answer. I was like, it's kind of a stretch. He was there for recruiting, but he ditched it.
No, yeah. So I mean, I probably met him a few times, but like I said, I wasn't playing offense, and so I don't think he was extremely, he probably didn't even know I was being recruited there.
Right. Yeah. So you mentioned Jimbo probably wouldn't be your guy. Do you have any sort of favorites? Got maybe a short list of guys you like?
Well, I mean, I know Mel Tucker's on everybody's list. And I don't know that I necessarily have anybody in mind, but I told a few of my friends that I wouldn't mind somebody. And I know this name might make a few people cringe, but this is just an idea, like a guy like this Josh McDaniels. Now, I'm not saying Josh McDaniels is the guy, but a
Interesting.
guy that's been in a pro program for what, 10, 12, 15 years,
Yeah.
tried his hand at being a pro head coach, didn't go so well, came back, left again. My point is, Josh McDaniels probably has more experience coaching quarterbacks and learning how to build a team than a lot of other coaches. And there's coaches at that level that aren't necessarily head coaches, that maybe not quite coordinators, but have been coordinators, that are back position coaches, somewhere in that like mid range. There's a lot of good football coaches there, and I wouldn't be surprised for it to be somebody that we hadn't heard of.
That is a very intriguing name you just dropped, and it is hard to get guys who've been in the NFL for so long to come down to college game. Typically,
Yeah,
when they're at that level for a certain point. There's certain things about the college game they don't like.
well, the
Like
recruiting, yeah,
right, recruiting is a grind, and it's one of those things to be good at. You kind of have to enjoy, eating a lot of gumbo from Mama's house, and if you're not into that kind of stuff, it can be kind of,
it's
but that is
taxing.
an interesting name. And what strikes me about that is Josh McDaniels is a very respected X's and O's guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Longtime coordinator and whatnot. I think LSU should go after like a strategic mastermind, and I really don't care what side of the ball, because think about LSU. Other than Saban, I can't think of a single coach at LSU who was really a tactician like that. I think it's about time LSU gave one a try.
Well, and that's a really good point because the difference in Alabama and LSU, God, I hate having to make that comparison, is that they develop players, more players, and more middle round and first round guys to the NFL. And when those guys get there, they're more developed. So,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, they're going to have to hire someone. And it's not necessarily about getting to the next level. Like, we have the athletes that are going to get to the next level. It's about how developed you are once you get to that level. They're going to have to find someone that has that ability, because that's what recruiting is now. Yeah, you're recruiting guys to come to LSU, but it's all about getting people to the league. That's the golden egg, the pot at the end of the rainbow that everybody wants to hear. Hey, we'll help you get to the NFL. So I think that comes with somebody who's very tactical and understands how the game works. So that's why I think there might be I don't know, there might be a wide receiver coach up there that has coached for 8 teams for 15 years and just like waited for the right time. And I don't know that person is necessarily right for the head coach, but why can't you start piecing together a staff? I
Right.
don't know. I have no idea, but I wouldn't mind seeing somebody like that either.
Yeah. And let me tell you just my one big rationale for that. I feel like when you have the CEO type, you're typically one bad coordinator hire away from 7-5 any season, because it
Well,
doesn't matter how much
we
talent.
just proved that, didn't we?
Yeah. Doesn't matter how much talent you have. I look at this LSU team, the dudes lining up. All right, let's put it like this: that team that took the field against UCLA, there was some talent on that
Yeah.
squad against UCLA. Now, I think with all the injuries derailing and whatnot, I'm not sure it'd be reasonable to expect, 17 injuries later, this team to compete for a championship. But I thought that was a 10-win team that lined up against UCLA, and they just were not. The dudes were
They
not.
just proved that like instantly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for me. Talent means nothing without leadership, and whether it's on the field or from the staff, like something's missing here. So it's like you got to cut it off, at the head,
Yeah.
right? Don't just start cutting back piece by piece. I think they did a
Yeah.
good job of splitting ways, and God, if we can just get through another month, it'll all be over with, and hopefully we'll have a coach.
Man, I cannot wait for them to just pick a head coach, just because the speculation has been so wide, so broad, so wild. So many names are on the table. And unlike Joe Oliva, Scott Woodward has kept a very tight lip about it. He has not ran his mouth He's
Yes.
quietly working. I talked to Ross Dellinger last week. He said as of last week, no agents, no coaches have been contacted in regards to the LSU job. So that just shows you how much cleaner this is being done. I do think
Yes.
the time in between is very awkward for fans, but probably for the better of the program, if I had to guess here.
Yeah, for sure. It gives guys like us something to talk about when our team's doing bad.
Exactly. Man, if the coach wasn't fired or separated at this point, man,
Yes.
these show I could only imagine the amount of angry reacts this show
The
would get. Man,
vitriol
people
that
would
would
be
be
furious. And Coach O would be just completely his entire personal life and everything would be dragged into the mud with all
yes.
the Facebook investigators out there, the Twitter warriors doing their thing. It's probably better for the program to just have a mundane, kind of quieter, speculative 2
Yeah,
months. Quite
when the
frankly.
season ends at 5-7, it just kind of goes
Yeah.
away, and hopefully basketball is doing well,
Yeah. Well, I expect basketball will be doing well. I expect
and
baseball will be
baseball
doing well.
too.
Yeah,
So
baseball should be
we're a
pretty good.
winter spring sports school.
Not a baseball guy, but I am hearing that recruiting
Come
class
on.
was shockingly impressive for Jay Johnson over there. I get a little upset with baseball recruiting. That okay, great, you signed the number one guy. Is he actually going to play for your program or go
Who
into the
knows?
draft? I don't know.
Who knows? Or is he going to go play football somewhere? A lot of those
Yeah,
guys do that
exactly.
too. So
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
I'm excited
Sometimes it's
about
like that.
baseball and basketball.
Me
So,
too.
like you said, hopefully we'll find us a coach, and then we can just start breaking him down, and we won't have to worry about losing by 28 points.
Hopefully you're right about that. I wanted to ask you real quick, man. So that offensive line shocked me against Florida 3 weeks ago. I mean, Tyrion Davis Price breaks the rushing record with 300 yards, and then the next week against Ole Miss, I'm going to do a film breakdown. Hint, hint, tease, tease later on in the show, guys. As Will breaks off, I'm going to do film breakdown of what happens. Okay, but Will, did you catch anything as a former offensive lineman in the difference
Uh,
in those two games?
just
What
attitude.
happened?
I think in the Florida game they found something that worked. They tried it again, it worked again, and they're like, whatever, we're going to commit to it. And a
Yeah.
lot of times, that's what it can be about. It's about finding those 2 or 3, 4 things that you can do well and just doing them and executing them properly. And that's kind of been I think the main problem for our offensive line, our offense in general. It's been execution, which in turn, kind of reflects preparation. But there's missed assignments and effort, right? Like those are the 2 things that you control no matter what, right? And I guess against Florida, everybody was motivated enough to do that. Of course, we know now that Florida's probably not that good. No, they played a decent game
Yeah.
against Alabama, but in retrospect, they're not the team I think that we thought they were when we beat them. Uh, but during that game, the guys were on. Guys have good games and bad games, and that's the argument about being in the SEC, right? You don't get to just have one good game against Florida. You gotta have a good game
No.
against Florida, and you gotta have a good game against Ole Miss, and then you gotta have a good game against Alabama. That's what makes it so hard. And whether these guys are ill prepared or ill motivated, I'm not sure what it is, but it could be both.
To me, if it means anything, it means that this team still is LSU talent wise, and they are dangerous enough to do anything. It's just they don't really have, their T's crossed and their I's dotted as a team right now, and they're kind of just they're
They're missing
lacking
that.
that
They're missing
drive.
that guy. They're missing that
Yeah,
guy. I don't see that
the
guy.
slap of butter on the steak, whatever you call it.
Yeah, just the guy to get people. They don't have a Devin White or
Mhm.
a Joe Burrow or a Tyrann Matthew or God, I don't anybody. Ricky Dean. They don't have anybody that is
Right.
out there. Even Damone Clark, as good of a season as he's played, doesn't seem like an overly vocal, in your face leader, and that's kind of I think something that's missing. Um, you know, guys in our program have always responded well to that. So
Right, right, and it's and it might be tough to be one of those guys during a
it
season like
is,
this
it
for
is,
sure.
it is for sure.
So last question here before I let you go here. I appreciate you taking some time to stop on the
Yeah,
LSU
man.
Football Fix tonight. What should I order at Tramonte's this weekend? You seem to know the menu pretty well.
The ribeye po' boy.
It's a go-to every time.
Is that still what it's called? It may have a different name.
Yeah. They do their catering.
The ribeye sandwich, maybe. I'm not sure if they call it a po' boy.
It's the po' boy,
Anyway,
ribeye po' boy.
you got to get
usually.
it. You got to get it medium, with some cheese and mayo.
Yeah.
You don't even need a side. Don't even need chips. Nothing. Just the sandwich. Make sure that you have access to a couch because you're gonna need to take a nap. 100%.
That is so
I'm
true.
telling you, dude. It's one of the best sandwiches in Baton Rouge. Not even like, even if you didn't have the big Tremonti's flag behind you, and you asked me about Tremonti's, I would tell you the truth.
Yeah.
The ribeye sandwich / po' boy is fire over there.
Yeah, they hooked me up with some ribeye rolls this weekend. That's my
Oh,
personal
never
favorite.
had one of those, but that sounds delicious.
Dude, cream cheese and jalapeno stuffed in a ribeye with bacon.
Oh, okay,
so
okay,
good.
okay. Tremonti's has the
good.
meats. They got the
Dude,
meats.
good meat ain't cheap. Cheap meat ain't good. Good
There you go.
coaches aren't cheap. Cheap coaches aren't good. That was someone brought that up
I
earlier
like
as a
that. All
point.
right. Well,
for the
hopefully we'll
coaches.
pay for one then.
LSU will pay for one. I don't know who it is, but he's going to be a very wealthy man. I know that much. Will, thank you for stopping on. Where can the people keep up with you?
Oh, just catch me at Willie B60 on Twitter. That's pretty much it. Trying to interact with you guys. I'll be up for some debate for our new coach, so just let me know.
All right, y'all tag him and harass him on Twitter. He said it's okay.
Don't do all that, but it's good talking to you, man.
I appreciate it, Will. That was Will Blackwell, 2011 All-American offensive lineman for LSU. Very insightful, very knowledgeable, very intelligent guy. I love having him on the show. I appreciate that. Y'all stick around. I'm going to do some film breakdown that's been very popular this season. What I'm going to focus on today with the film breakdown, I'm going to break down what went right running the ball against Florida and what went wrong running the ball against Ole Miss. You did it one week. Why couldn't you do it the next? Before that, I'm going to get to some of your comments. I try to be engaging on this live show. That's why we do it live instead of just pre-recording a video, sticking it up there. Whoop-de-doo. We do a live show. It is focused for social media, not just some syndicated program. It is made for what you are watching on right now. So that being said, I'm going to get to some of your comments. Before I do that, I do want to thank my sponsor tonight, Tramonte's. Of course, we got a little bit of a plug in with them. I just Will and a bunch of other players enjoyed going to Tramonte's a bunch. So coincidentally, he just loves the restaurant. So when he comes in, I've of course got to talk to him about that. But Tramonte's has been nice enough to give away a $25 gift card to anybody who can make it in person to the store off of Old Jefferson near Parkview Baptist. We're going to draw a winner. Comment on YouTube, share Facebook. Okay, make sure you share settings to where I can see them. They're all public, all that good stuff. You got to take care of that yourself. If you hit share Facebook, share it to a group, share it on your feed, whatever, doesn't matter. Just hit that share or go comment on YouTube. By the way, if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube is the better place to watch. But of course, Tramonte's is your tailgating and homegating headquarters for the 2021 season. We're going to hear from them real quick, and then I'm going to jump into your comments.
Tramonte's has meat. Tramonte's has seafood. Tramonte's has much more. Tailgating and homegating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tramontes.com.
Thank you, Tramonte's Meat and Seafood. Y'all go support them. Let them know you're watching the show and supporting them. We are a local business. They're a local business. We support each other. I would really appreciate your support of this show if you go support Tramonte's, and let them know that you got sent by Preston from TigerBait. All right, Jim Milano, who's been a great commenter all season. I appreciate bringing the fire every single week and good, insightful comments. That's Jim Milano. How do we hold together a recruiting class with all this uncertainty? That's a very good question, Jim. And we speculated that when the separation was first announced, the history of Scott Woodward is that he got very involved with his football programs and helped retain the recruiting. There was a very telling image for me this weekend of Scott Woodward on the sideline talking to Walker Howard for the Florida game. That surfaced on social media that I saw, and Scott Woodward was talking with him. That shows me that Scott Woodward is intimately involved in holding this recruiting class together. Coach O says he's still recruiting and still recommending guys, although you have to imagine that the passion and energy is not there still. I've talked to some recruits since this coaching change has been made, and they say that the recruiting's been consistent. They're still getting recruited. Most of them weren't nuts about Coach O leaving because most of them like Coach O. But that being said, you didn't have too many guys on board. I believe you have 14 commitments right now. So you have a good bit of the class left to recruit still. So there's not too many guys. I mean, it sounds brutal to say it like this, but there weren't too many guys left to be lost is the hard truth. And yeah, I just double checked that. It was 14. I was counting in my head. I was like, wait a second. Am I off one? All right. So yeah, 14 guys. There weren't too many guys to be lost in the first place. The good news is 5-star offensive lineman Will Campbell out of Neville, number 1 quarterback in the country, Walker Howard. Those 2 guys, program building type guys. Let's see here. A couple more comments as we go here. Jimbo, B-E-A-U-X. Man, if I could go with another player or coach, not with the E-A-U-X thing slapped on every time, Scott would give him the whole key to do whatever. Now, Jimbo Fisher is not a terrible hire by any stretch of the imagination. What has shocked me about his time at Texas A&M is that he has not been able to find a good, consistent quarterback. At Florida State, he did a very good job of that until the very end. He had Christian Ponder he made into a first-round draft pick, and Jameis Winston. Very arguably, looking at their NFL careers, you can argue that neither of those guys had first-round NFL talent. Although Jameis Winston has had some highs, and of course, as a Saints fan, very sad to see Jameis Winston get his injury, and he was clearly doing a serviceable job. But to first overall draft pick Heisman winner, you could argue Jimbo made him. So my point in mentioning that is that why hadn't he been able to do it at Texas A&M? He has all the resources in the world. But go back and look at Texas A&M's history. How many championship seasons has Texas A&M had? How many 11, 12 win seasons has Texas A&M had? They had Johnny Manziel for 2 years. They beat Alabama, but they didn't win any substantial football games, and they certainly didn't beat LSU. That was before Jimbo, of course, but my point is that maybe Texas A&M isn't quite as easy as a place to win as you might think. Remember, before they joined the SEC, Texas A&M was considered like a tier 2 type Big 12 program. I mean, little brother to Texas. Now, Texas is taking a backseat. Texas A&M joins the SEC, and I think there was this perception that they're pushing themselves in a tier 1 program, and of course all the money that's always been there with Texas A&M, but maybe there's something there that makes it not quite as easy a place to win as you might think. That would be the argument in favor of Jimbo Fisher and why he would be successful at LSU, where he is not successful where he's at. There's no guarantee of it either way. Yes, Mel, says Orlando or Osvaldo Brown. Mel Tucker increased his stock dramatically this weekend. Now, what might be telling is that one football game can increase a coach's stock that much. He's currently 15-12 as a football coach. That's 1/15 of his wins as a football coach. So his stock did go up dramatically, but that's because there wasn't too much stock to be there. Now, that being said, he is a longtime veteran coach. He's been a defensive coordinator of Georgia, the Jaguars. He was defensive coordinator at Ohio State, the Browns, the Bears. 5 big-time programs he's been a defensive coordinator and a respected defensive mind, although maybe not like the defensive guru type that like a Kirby Smart was, a lot of guys, but he definitely knows his X's and O's. But I think LSU would like to see a little bit more. Of course, one of the big knocks on his time at Michigan State is, okay, well, he hasn't played good teams. Well, he just beat Michigan, and he's got a chance to play Ohio State in a couple weeks. We shall see. I think LSU will go for a little more proven of a commodity. Dave Aranda is a guy whose stock went up this weekend. And of course, here's a comment from Cade Galt. Dave Aranda, very organized. Dave Aranda is a very calm guy, familiar name for LSU fans. I think he's a brilliant guy, but I mean, ultimately, after, kind of scraping through Mel Tucker's body of work, you realize like Dave Aranda and Mel Tucker are basically identical clones of one another. I mean, former LSU coaches, of course, Dave Aranda is former LSU coach, defensive coordinator, both defensive proteges, both very inexperienced as a head coach, similar win percentages. They're trending up this year for the first time. Dave Aranda with 1 loss, Mel Tucker with 0. And quite frankly, I'd have to give a slight edge to Mel Tucker resume-wise. Now, maybe you think Dave Aranda's got the better personality. Maybe you think you respect his defensive mind. He was a championship-winning coordinator. Bear in mind, Mel Tucker did coach a team to a championship, but lost that championship. Of course, he was the guy who made the cover 3 call against Bama on 2nd and 26 in overtime of the national championship. There's some people criticize it. I don't hate a cover 3 call in that situation, and Devontae Smith proved to make a lot of defenses look silly. So those guys are very similar. Cade says, I want Tomlin. Tomlin don't want you. Another name that was trending up, and I'm trying to see if anybody hit on this because the rumor was hitting very strong earlier in the last week. But Matt Rule was a name that came up, and Matt Rule would be a straight up grand slam hire. Everybody in the country wanted him after he resurrected Baylor from the ashes. Now, of course, after he left, there was a major hole last year, and Dave Aranda took over and had a very poor season last year, but seems to have re-resurrected from the ashes. But originally it was Matt Rule. Dave Aranda has now beaten more ranked teams during his tenure at Baylor than Matt Rule did. So arguably, part of Matt Rule's success was that he didn't have to play to very much stout competition. That being said, Baylor's not an easy program to build up. He took it from a pretty bad position. Of course, they were still facing the repercussions from the Briles tenure there. And he took it over and did some good work. He's a well-respected mind. And the plus with Rule is that he very well may bring a familiar name as his defensive coordinator on over with Joe Brady. Now, Joe Brady had a nice sitting down and talking to this last week saying, we're working on doing a lot of things better. That's Matt Rule to Joe Brady. I can't tell if that's smoke for I'm a coach trying to save my job and throwing a coordinator under a bus, or if that's legitimate. I do know Carolina's offenses have not ranked as highly as you would like. That being said, they have been shockingly injury prone and have not gotten their hands on a good quarterback over the last 2 years. Teddy Bridgewater, love him, but not a Super Bowl caliber type quarterback. I mean, it's looking like he's going to have a journeyman type career. Sam Darnold looked great for 3 weeks this year, but now they're on a 4-game lose streak. Of course, now you would say you have a realistic chance with Rule because his tenure is not going so great at Carolina. However, a lot of NFL coaches are not so successful in the NFL, but they're very good in college. I think Matt Rule would be a great hire for LSU. I don't know if it's realistic, but of course, now we've heard all sorts of other names. So those are kind of the 4 hot names at the moment. As promised, time for some film study. Who's ready? All right, we're going to start here with Florida. This is 1 touchdown run. Now, what you're going to notice immediately, 6 men in the box. But you're running a very weird, you're running like a 3-3-5 stack, but your 2 outside linebackers are stacked as playing defensive ends. This is basically a 5-1. Now, This is a disrespectful formation, if you ask me. Why is it disrespectful? Well, it's disrespectful because this gives no attention to the running game. You've got 5 down defensive linemen, which of course do a good job of plugging holes, but can they react to a running back who's ran past the line of scrimmage and make a tackle? No. And you're going to see LSU actually runs a play that they had not put on film very often. They run a counter tray here, and they do it out of shotgun. So what happens? Well, first off, I want you to watch your nose guard here. Okay. Now, he's almost more like a defensive tackle with this guy kind of being in the middle, but he's actually these are your 3 down linemen, right? And so he's over the center. Effectively, he's your nose tackle. So watch what happens. I'm sorry. This is your nose tackle. He twists out. That's what I'm telling you. He twists. Twists are something you do as a stunt to throw off offensive linemen in pass blocking situations. What does LSU do? Well, that's exactly the backside block they were looking for. Now we've got 2 offensive linemen here pulling, trying to catch a guy blindsided, but everybody is sealed. Seal, seal, seal. Boom, 2 free guys blocking. And of course, Liam Shanahan with a backside block on that nose tackle, on the defensive end, right? Kind of lined up like a nose tackle over the center, but he was playing defensive end, right? Easy enough block to make. Backside. Of course, the linebacker lined out there is completely untouched. He's out of the play. You don't need him. If he were to step back 3-4 yards, he would be able to read and scrape. But Florida kept on putting the guys down. So what happens? Boom. Get your seam. For the first time all season, get a seam. Now, this is not a good seam. And this same nose guard I was telling y'all about earlier can make the tackle. But he doesn't. He's right there. Offensive lineman Deculus hooked on. And of course, he's to the house. And he's got a full head of steam. This is what Tyrion Davis-Price is good at. This is where he excels. Once he gets his head of steam, he's a good player. Now, did Florida make an adjustment? Well, let's see. Stop screen share, share again, share screen. Tab, bear with me here just a moment, guys. Let's see. Okay, so later in the game, LSU's now up 7 points, right? Now you see they backed up 2 backers. So slight tweak, but they still have an edge rushing backer. So they're still running that 3-3-5 look, just instead of stacking the boxes on both sides, they only put 1 backer down to rush. So you're going to see LSU runs the exact same play here. Boom, pulling 2 offensive linemen, sealing backside. Guy goes completely untouched over here. This is that defensive end, right? Can't make the play. Although, what could have happened is that he could have sat and squeezed harder and pinched this a little tighter. That's Bear Bryant coaching camp right there. If you've got nobody blocking you as defensive end, do not go upfield. He's way too far upfield. He should be squeezing about half as deep upfield, squeezing his shoulder in. Of course, easier said than done, but that's not good run stopping technique. So now you've got, first off, Jack Mashburn going downfield. The safety is crashing, and Mashburn has him in his headlights. That's something receiving, blocking, and whatnot. LSU hasn't exactly had a great track record of this year, but Mashburn, great work here. Here's Deculus pulling. He's open. This is something LSU had not seen all freaking year. Guys blocked. Here's your double team. You're actually winning. Okay? And then you have a free guy. Man, that's exactly what LSU had been wanting all year. Well, they got it. Of course, Tyrion Davis-Price picks a really tight hole here instead of going out wide. Probably a few of these defenders were expecting him to go out wide. And you'll see in a second that it's a super tight hole. Again, 11 here, he's got a chance to make the tackle. That happened on both of his touchdown plays. I mean, if he just wraps up, puts a head on the ball, and gets him, I know Deculus is there. But I mean, look, there's his head right there. I refuse to believe that there's just no way he could have gotten a hand on him. course, he breaks 3. The safety is blocked because Mashburn's downfield blocking. That was an unexpected element of this game. And he's gone to the house. He's got a full head of steam. You're not catching him. Now, what you might analyze on both those plays, what you might take out of them on both those plays, very crummy defense. Crummy defense. We're going to take a look at Ole Miss. What happened with Ole Miss? Share screen. All right, here we go. 7-24, LSU's been getting their butt kicks, but that's okay because we're running the same play here, and that works for me. 3rd and 2, you just got to get 2 yards. What does Ole Miss do? Well, notice they're also running a 3-3 defense here, right? Gives you enough speed to react to a pass, but also their backers are completely stepped back. So instead of having a guy up here who's able to go completely unblocked and taken out of the play completely, you have to respect all 3 of them. So it's like they added an extra body because he can now scrape and react. And that's exactly what we're going to see. Also, no stunt stuff. Boom, defensive lineman. Look at the pad level. Helmet below, helmet below, helmet below. They're posting up, right? Defensive nose guard there, of course, is sealing in. You've got your 2 guys pulling. But these guys are brick walls, man. They're not given that tiny little seam. Difference is, seam instead of 1 guy being there, you've got extra bodies. 3 guys have all reacted to the ball. And they're all respecting the run now, by the way. You even have your Brian Thomas sitting there squatting just like Malik Neighbors was on the last play. And even that's covered, but it doesn't matter because it's just a fake. 3 guys head on the ball. And that's the difference. It's literally just mild tweaks and pad levels of the defensive lineman. That is your difference in the play right there. So that's been our film study tonight. I'm going to get to a few more comments. We're going to talk a little bit more about coaching search. But before we do that, I do want to thank Tramonte's. Remember, y'all, comment YouTube, share on Facebook, and that is how you enter for a chance to win a $25 gift card. Tramonte's is your homegating and tailgating headquarters for the 2021 season. They are currently taking pre-orders for smoked, fried, and rotisserie turkey for Thanksgiving. You will impress your family with one of those, I promise. They have Chairman's Reserve Wagyu beef, 30 kinds of meats and sausage. They offer deer cleaning and meat and game processing. So if you're hunting, give them a call. 225-751-7665 or visit Tramontes.com for more information. Their ribeye roll I mentioned earlier is fantastic. Y'all give that a try. Lunch Deli is open till about 3 o'clock during the week, and they are open 9 to 5 on Saturdays. They're located on Old Jefferson next to Parkview Baptist. So y'all give them a try. I would appreciate you supporting them. They support our show. Local businesses supporting local businesses, making everything we do possible.
Tramonte's has meat. Tramonte's has seafood. Tramonte's has much more. Tailgating and Homegating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tramontes.com.
I'm going to address this one just real quickly. Rodney Kraft, is there any black coach that would not be a political hire? I think any of the names you're hearing are not political hires. I think both Dave Aranda, Mel Tucker, they have track records that are deserving of a major Power 5 job. Let's see here. Why not Deion Sanders? Well, that's different. Deion Sanders has not won at a high enough level to be considered for a job like LSU. There's just so many steps in between where he's at Jackson State, and LSU. Lane's stock has dropped off tremendously with losing this week. It's kind of funny how people overreact. However, from the very get-go on this show and on TigerBait Live with Mike Scarborough, we've highlighted quite a number of reasons why you wouldn't want him. I do respect his offensive mastermind, and I think that is kind of the angle LSU should go. However, I just think there's better versions of him out there. I wouldn't be surprised if Franklin goes to USC or something. Yeah, he did hire Jimmy Sexton as his agent. I don't think LSU goes after Franklin. His buyout is tremendous, and he's pretty set in Penn State. But honestly, I'm not so certain that Penn State's not a better gig than USC. If I were Franklin, I'd just stay put because he's got a pretty decent thing going. He's proven resume consistency in 2 jobs. Gerard Guillory, would you come back and explain that? Dave Aranda is a very solid coach. I agree. Let's see here, man. We got some trash talking going on here. He was talking about Franklin. He has proven he's solid. I just think that there's major buyout. There's some scuttlebutt from his time at off the field scuttlebutt from Vanderbilt, and I don't think LSU puts up with it for that guy. I think there's names that they would put up with that crap for, but we'll see. Braves up 5, man. Are the Braves about to win the World Series? I'm rooting for Houston. Let's see here. Matt Rule, I can get behind. You should get behind Matt Rule. Matt Rule would be an incredible hire. Gives you lots of hope. Very high stock type guy. Let's see here. Man. Let's see, man. We got some. See, this is the kind of crazy stuff talking about this coaching search here. Got guys dropping Ryan Day. Ryan Day is good where he's at. He is not going to be coming to any special program, to any other program, quite frankly. I think he's got, I mean, I've been talking about the top 5 jobs. I think LSU is the top 5. The 3 jobs that I might put above LSU are Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia. So I'm not so certain that Ryan Day would have a reason to leave unless, I don't know. That's just not realistic. Just I'll just stop talking about it. Rooting for the Braves. It's funny for me, this World Series. I actually grew up a Braves fan. I went to a game, 20 years ago in Atlanta, and I've never been a huge baseball guy, but I liked the Braves. Well, since Bregman got drafted by the Astros, and with them being the geographically closest team to Baton Rouge, I've kind of picked them up. Day is very underpaid. Yeah, but Ohio State can pay him, and he's achieving high enough to do that. Urban Meyer, Dane Bergeron, great comment. Urban Meyer is a guy, if he's interested, that you put up with his crap for and you bring him in, because 8 out of his 17 seasons coaching college football have been 1 loss or 0 losses. Yo. Could you imagine if 50%? I mean, basically that's like making LSU almost Alabama type level. If half your seasons are 1 or 0 losses, that would be incredible. I want to thank y'all for watching the show tonight. Appreciate all of y'all for joining us on the LSU Football Fix. I want to thank Tramonte's, our sponsor, for joining us tonight. We're going to hear from them, and we're going to call it a night. Thank y'all so much.
Tramonte's has meat. Tramonte's has seafood. Tramonte's has much more. Tailgating and Homegating platters. Huge wine and liquor selection. Beer and all the spices you need. Chairman Reserve and Wagyu meats. Ribeye rolls, shrimp rolls, kebabs. 20 flavors of sausage for the grill. Daily lunch specials and game processing. On-site catering also available. Good meat ain't cheap and cheap meat ain't good. Visit Tramontes.com.
Thank you all for joining us. We'll be here next Tuesday to recap the game against Alabama. Mike Scarborough will be live tomorrow night with Buddy Sonji, hopefully. So y'all make sure to hit that notification button so you can see when we go live every single time. Y'all have a great night, and go Tigers.